stir it up and do things our way. So if you wanna move, get out of our way.
Greetings, darlings. I'm not practicing. You guys are just gonna take me for the Vanderpump that I am.
You might have reached your ceiling with this, honestly. You're not regressing, but it's not getting much better.
As long as he's not regressing.
Yeah.
So I'll just give up my dreams of Beverly Park and go on tour with the Countess. No, Cabaret might be better for me. But if you guys can't figure out why we're here by my beautiful British accent, it's the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills Season 1 Rewatch. And here we are, episode 11.
Bum, bum, bum.
It's getting good.
Really? I don't know. This episode.
I was trying to just.
This episode made me sad because nostalgic, because it was the very first, and we've already seen the last, but the very first Richard Umansky's white party.
Wow. It is, I've only seen the 13th and the first, and wow, is that an evolution?
Yeah.
The 13th was on the floor of SoFi Stadium, which was a little ridiculous. They were doing it on the floor of SoFi Stadium, but still, this one's in her backyard, like with a Fatburger truck. Not that I hate that. I don't hate that at all, but it's so much smaller.
I wanted to tell you guys that because Fatburger is something you guys will see a lot of throughout the show, especially at Kyle's parties. And it is because they're family friends. The Fatburger owners are the Wiederhorns. And at that time, Farrah was the Wiederhorns have two twin sons. Kyle's daughter Farrah was dating one. Kim's daughter Brooke was dating the other. It was a family affair.
No.
Brooke, Kim's daughter, has gone on to marry that son, and Farrah's moved on. But so it's like that is why you'll see in future seasons, Lisa, when Kyle isn't getting along, she'll be like, "What is she gonna have, another Fatburger truck?" It's because that was her product placement.
And I
the
will
agency hat.
I will say to any listeners that are not familiar with Fatburger, it is so for a Los Angeles, California thing, so much better than In-N-Out. It just does not have the same rep as In-N-Out, but it's so much better. I love Fatburger.
I've been to their events where they still have Fatburger sometimes. Honestly, no one really eats it. I know you saw Taylor, LVP, they're all struggling to take a bite, or they were saying off. Camille says, "Oh, I'll take one for the road."
Yeah.
They're not eating it.
No. Nobody eats at parties.
Well, the one person who did, and I don't know if it was just cut to make it look like he did, but I caught Russell eating at least 3 of them throughout the episode. Yeah, but
men will eat.
They would
the
show
girls and the
eating.
gays don't eat. That's what it is.
But they showed Russell eating, and then later on he's eating, and then they showed him later on standing back at the truck, and I'm like, is he having 4 burgers? Granted, he sucks and he's having a horrible time, and I don't blame him because they're really good. But wow, that is a lot of burgers to have in one night.
Yeah.
Should we just only talk about this white party? Because you have Camille's tennis thing.
Well, I just one thing before the Cedric stuff. The Cedric, in the beginning,
let's talk about
it's Lisa finally coming around to, because Ken all season's been he's got to move out. Why is he still here? And Lisa's, this is where she's finally yeah, I think he does. But and the whole season, and Cedric's been sort of it's been comic relief, how he's just mooches, he just lays by their pool, drinks their booze, Ken's complaining that he drives the cars, returns them with no gas. But then it gets dark real fast when Kyle asks him about his family history, and I was like, oh God.
Yeah, wait, we should explain this for the ones who haven't.
Yeah.
It is Pandora's 24th birthday. It's a little dinner party at SUR. By the way, I think this was the first scene filmed inside SUR.
It's the first. I didn't see it. Yeah.
Early seasons. This is season 1 Beverly Hills, pre-Pump Rules. They lay it on thick with Villa Blanca, but we finally got to see SUR and what would come. And so Pandora has a 24th birthday party.
Yeah.
And it's their family, the Vanderpump Todds, and then it's Kyle and Cedric.
And Martin. Don't forget
Picture it.
Martin. Martin
yeah.
was in the background. He shows up again at the white party, but he was in the background at SOAR. And I was like, oh, Martin's back. All right.
This is where Pandora's boyfriend Jason, now husband, I would have punched him in the face if I were.
Okay.
If I was
I so easily could have looked this up, but I didn't. But I was going to ask you. I was like, okay, so he pseudo proposed for evidently the 5th or 6th time. Like when he gave this speech, and even Lisa's like, shit or get off. She literally said shit or get off the pot. Although I think she said it kinder, because she said he keeps doing this. He does these speeches where everybody's expecting him to propose. So I was like, God, I wonder if they are still together.
Oh yeah, I think it's 2nd season where they get engaged. But the speech he gave, I got excited, like, oh my God, was this the proposal?
That was Pandora even. Oh no, she honestly was the one who didn't think it was coming because she's used to his shit. Like everybody else was on the edge of their seat, and she was just like, she might as well just turn to everybody and be like, guys, no, it's not happening. It's not.
Yeah. He's saying in front of her parents, you are who I want to spend the rest of my life with. He says it like 3 times. But I guess after that big disappointment, it turns to Kyle, who had to know something. She had her spidey senses on.
Well, you're talking about the thing with Cedric?
Yeah.
Well, was so set up though for the, like I said, up until then it was this big like comedic, like Cedric, he's just laughable. But then the way Kyle brought it up at dinner was just so awkward. Lisa's between Cedric and Kyle just leans over and goes, so Cedric, tell me about your family history, knowing that it's dark. And it's like, that's such a weird conversation for Lisa to be in the middle of it. And then he goes into his family history. Like just last week when I commented, I said, I don't know where Cedric's accent is from. Like I cannot pick up. I said he could be British. He could be Spanish. I did not know French. Had no idea French. And then he gives this story that almost felt like something out of Les Mis. Les Mis mixed sort of with like Dr. Evil telling his family history about like growing up the son of a prostitute. Like, but obviously that's very comedic. But Cedric's was like, oh shit, this is dark. He never knew his dad, grew up, his mom was a prostitute, in abusive relationships. They were on the street when he was 7 years old. Then his mom ditched him and he grew up on the street, found his way into like the foster system, and essentially the Vanderpumps, or the Todds, the Vanderpump Todds more or less adopted him.
When he was telling that story, like it just kept going on and on. His mother was a French prostitute living on the streets. They were stealing and begging. On the streets, he had to sleep between her and the homeless men so they wouldn't assault her. Then she ditches him in a phone booth. And all I could picture was seasons later, Erika telling everyone how Tom's house was robbed. It just kept getting weirder and weirder. Like, and then my mother's pimp rolled his car 5 times, and then I was like,
yeah.
It turns out to be fake, so you guys know. It comes out later on. His whole story was a lie.
No,
but okay. So I'm confused though, because some people say it's a lie, but then I don't know how much to believe him or not, because he's been interviewed since. And he's like, well, yeah, the same thing like what you've said about how, he wasn't living at their house, like, when he was when they were interviewed and everything like that. And then he left. And then when they finally were filming, they wanted him back because they wanted that whole dynamic. And that was there. But he says that past is true. And in fact, it's so true because Bravo, the production company, needed to verify it in order for them to film it. So they actually got in touch with his foster family to make sure it was true. So they say it is, he says it is true. But like what isn't true is that they were on, that him and Lisa were on really good terms. Like, no, that it wasn't very good at that time. But he's also saying, he likes to say that he wouldn't return the car with gas because he wasn't getting paid for the work that he was doing. Yeah, sure, he was getting like free room and board there, but he was just like their personal assistant without getting paid for anything. It's like, oh, we put a roof over your head and you can eat whatever you want here, but we're not giving you money to do anything. So it's like, okay. So it's kind of like, it seems very murky to me. I think and that he was dating Lance Bass, and then they broke up. And Lisa really wanted him to still be dating Lance Bass during the show. And he was like, no, I'm not going to be doing that. And then he started dating a waiter from Villa Blanca, and she didn't like that and made him break up with that waiter because that wasn't the look that she wanted him to have. And he gets very specific about how everything that she was planning and all this stuff that you've heard, Jordan, about her, like her machinations about looking up stuff and the way that she would stir the pot behind what.
Oh, like, she used to call her castmates every night and go over what filmed and what she wants them to do tomorrow.
Yeah. So it seems that he has Lisa's number. Like, I think, did he exaggerate stuff? Do I think he's a little bit of a con man? Yes. But I also think it goes back to sometimes manipulative people. It's because they had to be growing up. And so I think he's kind of one of those people where maybe it's a little bit of that.
I would say that Lisa had Kyle ask him that.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, that was all. That's the way Lisa backs away while those two talk over her. Kyle in the early seasons, they were very close. They were real friends in the original season. It was a friend group, and Kyle and her were super close, and Kyle kind of took cues from LVP. She's a mastermind, and I'm sure she called her the night before and was like, darling, I'm going to lean back slightly and you're going to ask Cedric. Like, that's honestly how it went. I've been told this stuff from those people. It was not so whole thing. It was I know it's a very sad story, but it was really enjoyable in the context of.
But now it's going to be weird if he goes back into being like comic relief later on. It's like, well, now this is just too much. I can't.
Well, you won't see him after this season.
Okay.
Except for a brief appearance when Brandy comes back, and that's for another day. But yeah. Oh. It's funny though. I'm sorry to jump. We were talking about the white party, and one of the funny things is when Lisa Vanderpump walks into Kyle's house with Cedric, and it was a dig at both Kyle and Cedric. She goes, "No, Cedric, Kyle doesn't have a guest house, so don't get too excited."
Burn.
I did not hear that.
She's calling Cedric a user and Kyle a poor.
Oh my God.
Nice.
Yeah. And the white party, the white party was honestly, for a house party, that was really nice. But it's looking back, it was nice for a early season Housewives, but now it's so. I can imagine Kyle.
So dated. It's so dated. It like my first thing was like, oh, it looks like a White House black market ad. Like that's like what everybody's wearing. Also, like I'm like, I feel like even then, in my opinion, white parties were kind of over. Like Diddy had already been doing white parties for about a decade by then. I was like, who's doing these white parties and stuff? Like, but I just was kind of like, okay, whatevs. But yeah, it was a nice party at the time. But now looking back and what they've done since, like, just like, oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
A lot of my entire thing, like with the white party, was just Taylor and Russell. Oh my God. OMG. Yeah. Like that's just
I feel like we're in reruns every week where I just say every week I have notes to say Russell's the worst. And every week he doesn't disappoint.
I have a really I'm gonna read it anyways. Who cares? A
Uh-oh.
really terrible note I wrote in here because it's when they're struggling. Russell obviously is miserable and he wants to go home. And you can see Taylor's bothered. She can't have fun with her husband. She's like, I wish I could take him from the dark side over. I wish I could get him. No, she said, I wish I could get him to come to the fun side from the dark side. And I wrote, well, he's going to the other side.
Oh God.
You psychopath yet again.
God.
I mean, come on. It was only months away. So
This is true. I mean,
yeah.
the way though that like the attitude that he's giving her is like this emotional manipulation. I don't want to be here. I have this bad attitude. You need to have the same attitude as I have. It's another way of like emotional abuse of like, we have to be one. You have to agree with me, you know. And she said, like, I've left parties that I didn't want to leave. And this is one time when I don't. But as soon as like she kind of puts her foot down, you could see this like fear in her of like, I'm going to get it when I get home. You just saw it.
There's a sad scene where she's standing alone. It's towards the end of the white party. She's standing alone in the driveway
with a cake. She's holding a
piece of
cake.
cake.
Yeah.
And then it keeps cutting to the women inside dancing with their husbands. And she's just alone and sad, waiting for a car to take her home.
I mean, even when she was with Kyle and they were putting Portia in her, you know, night outfit and stuff, it was just like, you could just tell there was a conversation that wasn't happening in between them that like they were trying to have, but not having, you know, about like, you guys know what I'm talking about. It's like that space in between that just says so much without saying anything of like that she just
like she was telling Kyle one excuse she came, you know, she's like, it's just he seems so busy with all these business deals inside his head. And part of it was like, because we know after things happen, and part of it was his business was collapsing. So there was that, but that's you know, that's hindsight's 2020. But what you're talking about, this like unspoken, what's it called, subcurrent in their convo. Kyle's like, don't accept that as an excuse. My husband's a busy businessman and he still finds time for family and he still finds time for fun.
And it's like Taylor trying to say, this is like, I'm being abused. And Kyle trying to say, what are you saying? Like, because I don't know. We don't know if Kyle knew at that point or not. You know, we don't know who knew how much at what point.
Yeah.
So it's like, it is. And it also, to be honest with you, like, it just made me so uncomfy, like watching it. It just gave me PTSD from some bad, emotionally bad relationships that I've been in with, like, where the man is like, he's like, I've decided I'm not having this and you can't have it either. And I'm just going to suck all the energy out. Yeah. And I'm going to make sure nobody, if I'm not having a good time, ain't nobody having a good time around me.
Yeah.
And that just was what it was. Even when he left, she still couldn't have a good time.
Yeah.
I just felt so bad for her. Oh my gosh. It was tough.
One thing. Oh, go ahead.
No, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, sorry. One thing I had to jump back to, it wasn't that eventful. Camille had a tennis stay at the house and she invited Adrienne and her kids, Kyle and her kids. But there is a line here that was funny to me because, first of all, you see her butler. You'll see him later on at Yolanda's house. He's like a traveling, but his name's Richard. He's a traveling for hire. He's not a real full-time butler. He's like a caterer with a British accent. But when she's telling Kyle about Kelsey in New York and how he's just so, but she's like, how's Kelsey doing on Broadway? She's like, he's so tired. He doesn't talk to me anymore.
Yeah. Why is he tired? That's weird.
It's like it started like 6 days at 6 calls a day, 4 calls, 2. Can't wait to hang up on me.
I was thinking about it. Like, it's, you know, A-list stars doing Broadway is very common. Them doing it for an entire year is not common. Usually they do it for like 6 weeks, maybe a month or two. But a full year, like that's just him not wanting to be around her.
Yeah, no, it was so obvious. It was like,
and
She's so
that's
tired.
these are like the times that I do feel bad for Camille. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't like her, but at the same time I go, that sucks, because that slow like pull away and something's happening. I mean, granted, at this point she actually knows that her marriage
I was going to
is
ask
over.
that. Does she know about everything at that point, or is she my question was, does she honestly believe that he's tired, or is she just trying to convince herself that he's tired, or does she full on know that he's out there having like a second family?
I think at this point, if I remember correctly, she like the marriage was in trouble, but she was still in that optimistic mindset that it could be saved. So
That's it. Yeah.
So
Okay.
she wasn't speaking in terms if he doesn't want to talk to me. It's like she's like, oh, I'll keep working on him. We'll figure it out. It's not till the next episode when he flouted. It's like, we're done.
Yeah.
Also at the party, and they sort of do it for comic relief, but is this like the second time this season that Paul's had his nose broken? It was a different time, right?
Same son.
Yeah, like, okay, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but that seems convenient that the son keeps breaking his nose when in fact his wife, martial arts expert, not accusing, her being violent, but I wouldn't be surprised either, because she always seems very annoyed by him.
Yeah.
Maybe she just gets her son to do it for her.
Yeah. Well, and she even I don't know if she meant to, and I've never heard the phrase, but she said that their son butt-headed him. She might have just gotten it backwards, but I'm like, is butt-headed is that a phrase?
Oh, head-butted.
Yeah, it was supposed to be
meant to say
head-butted, but
head-butt.
she said butt-headed, which is funny.
Yeah.
Although maybe he hit Paul in the head with his butt.
Maybe.
Because I mean,
maybe
small boys, they will just fling their bodies everywhere and hit you with whatever. Like, I mean, you could easily get hit in the face with a boy's butt. Him just like flinging his body across the room. So yeah.
I just like, we're 11 seasons into the episode, and he's had his nose broken twice. Wow.
I mean, 11
Plastic
episodes.
surgeon.
Oh, and when he jokingly pushes Adrian into the pool, which it seems so spontaneous, even though Kyle and Adrian clearly didn't have mic packs on, so it was about as spontaneous as when Teddy pushes Tamara into the pool on OC. And then when Adrian like looks at him and says, "You're going to get a fat lip," I'm like, "Oh, okay."
She's petite but mighty.
Well, how many scenes have they shown her this year working out where she's mentioned multiple times how she's a skilled martial artist, and it's like, okay, all right.
Yeah.
I'm not not accusing her of anything.
One thing I have to say at this white party towards the end, when they show it was funny watching the couples dance. You see Paul and Adrian, and they're doing what I would call like Night at the Roxbury moves. It was their dance moves were very 90s club, which is probably kind of like their heyday, how they met, whatever. Maybe a little disco thrown in there. And I was thinking, God, 2010. Dancing at that point, like in clubs, is like grind it, get low,
like Lil Jon.
Low.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's like Lil Jon.
And theirs is like
Like disco.
shimmying. Yeah, it was yeah. I mean, because it was Mauricio's 40th, and I was like, God, I can't believe it.
That made me feel so old. I'm like, wait, what? I mean, granted, I know that was 13 years ago, but still, I was like, wait, I'm older than him. I'm older than him now than he was then, if that makes sense. So it just made me feel old.
And I mean, even though they weren't wealthy by the show standards, at a house in Bella, they were doing much better than I am approaching that age. So
Exactly. Yeah.
it's like,
No.
Any other fun things this episode?
Well, there was Kim being awkward as always, but her and Martin, just the two of them being kind of awkward together. But Martin wasn't helping, that's for sure.
Well, my point is that I feel like Kim was not drinking that night, so she was more awkward.
There was a glow. She looked good, and even Kyle notes, like, I'm so glad to see her like this way or something.
Yeah.
You can
And I
kind of
just
sense it.
yeah, she seemed sober to me, and like, yeah, and like it, but also that was where more of her awkwardness came out, because it's like she's not drinking, so she doesn't have that, that crutch, So
And
yeah.
kind of like with Shannon with not wanting to know what's in those videos when when you wake up drunk and you're just like, I think it's awkward for Kim and Martin, because the last time she saw him, he had to drive her home 30 miles because she was wasted.
Mhm.
And now she's like, I left that in the past. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't like knowing what I did. You can't blame me for what I don't remember.
Oh, also one thing real quick, and this is just a side thing, like because it was Mauricio's 40th, and then there was this, the singer there who's like singing and they're dancing, and it was like, it makes me so uncomfortable. It makes me want to crawl out of my skin anytime somebody's like singing to somebody in public, like just like when it's like a wonder, like that whole thing. I don't know what it is. I think it makes me want to crawl out of my skin. Like, let me sing a song to you, or this is a special song just for the two of you. And it's like in public, like even on The Bachelor, when they've got like some like whatever country star there, and it's like, I'm just gonna sing this song just for The Bachelor and this beautiful girl, and they have to dance in front of nobody, but that it's America, and I'm just like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no. I'd rather be in a bathing suit with Camille Grammer, on national television than be sung to and have to dance slow-mo in front of people at a party in private. No, absolutely not.
This was the first time, last note, that Camille called the other women jealous, and she was absolutely correct. Even the other women in their confessionals were like, I don't want to be in a bathing suit around Camille. Camille's like, maybe they don't want to be in one because they're jealous. No, she finally called it right. Like, yeah.
Yep.
Growth. Well, anything else on that note? Anything else?
Not for me.
Oh, one last thing. Camille's hostess gift to Kyle for the white party. She gives her a book about etiquette called How to Behave. And I went flash forward to season 1 of Potomac, Karen Huger and Giselle. That's what she did to her.
That is right. That is absolutely. Oh, the Grand Dame. Oh my God. And Potomac's coming back this fall. I'm so excited. The trailer just dropped. I cannot wait.
Me neither. Can't wait.
Well, you know what we hear at PCP, we don't really need lessons in etiquette. What you really should be doing is encouraging our bad behavior. And the best way to do that actually doesn't cost you a thing. All you have to do is rate, review, subscribe, and follow. That's Pretty Corrupt Podcast on TikTok and Instagram, at Pretty Corrupt 1 on Twitter. And of course, now we're also on YouTube.
We are so close to those 500 subscribers that I want by Halloween. So make sure you subscribe. And especially because tomorrow we're dropping the first astrology podcast with I can't speak, with Bravo Bitch Fest. So we're doing the relationship chart of Alexis Bellino and John Jansen. And especially you will want to see that on YouTube so you can see the chart and see what she and I are talking about. It's going to be fun.
On that note, who wants to say? I don't know how to say bye in British. Cheerio.
We discussed this last week. Top of the morning. You say top of the morning.
Top of the morning, darlings.